Hi, everyone, and welcome to ABC's of Anesthesia. And in this episode, I'm interviewing Chanel. Now, Chanel is a sixth-year medical student, so final year medical student at the University of Adelaide. And he's just done a lot of medical electives in anesthesia. So in Adelaide, as well as Sydney, Nepal, and he's soon to go to Scotland. So welcome, Chanel. How you doing?
Thanks, Lahiri. No, I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. I'm really excited to have you on because I don't think I've met anyone who's done or is about to do so many anesthesia electives. And, for our audience, I think that's great because I think that's the one thing that really, you don't get much anesthetics exposure in medical school unless you choose it. And obviously our audience loves anesthesia. So you're kind of the person to talk to. And I think we're just having this chat like, there would be no point me interviewing the chair of anesthesia or, some professor because they won't know about this stuff. So it's great to have someone who's kind of done that stuff at your level. This is where people are going to be interested in how to, the general elective planning, the application process and logistics, and then just like how to maximize your experience in your elective rotation. So actually, let's get started. So you've done the Adelaide, Sydney, Nepal elective. You're about to go to Scotland. Can you just talk briefly, give me a brief overview of your elective experiences that your university offers and what drew you to them?
Yeah, sure. As you touched on before, I think especially at Adelaide, but I think it transcends across a lot of med schools across Australia. Anaesthetics is not really the elective not really a placement that you get much exposure in. Particularly in Adelaide, I think we get around 1 week of anaesthetics exposure across our whole 6 years. And given that I had some interest in it, I wanted to, see, kind of delve into it a bit more. I think I get a bit lucky at the University of Adelaide because we have a lot of flexibility with electives, both locally and internationally. So in fourth year, which is our first year of clinical placement, we get offered a 3-week elective internally, so somewhere within South Australia. I was lucky enough to get the one in anesthetics, which allowed me to see what it was like from a very, very junior point of view. But I quickly worked out that it was something I was interested in. And then in fifth and sixth year, so last year we get the opportunity to do a 3-week elective anywhere in Australia. And I was lucky enough to get one locked in Sydney. So I did that over in Sydney for 3 weeks. And that was great as well. Lots of exposure to, I guess, a different system in a sense, to see how it works in a different state. And then, Nepal happened in January this year, which was very, very exciting. Being able to go overseas as a med student and see what it's like in a complete different healthcare system was great too. And I'm keen for Scotland coming up in August. So, yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. What are your the key things to consider when choosing where to go? Like, how did you choose these?
So I guess you get a lot of flexibility where it's just kind of you pick where you want to go and what you want to do. I think a few things to consider is the specialty that you do have an interest in. So obviously, I think a lot of people listening to this would be interested in anesthetics. So that's quite an easy one. I think the learning opportunities are important to consider as well. So will you get a lot of hands-on experience, or is it mostly an observership type elective? And that can be quite clear on a lot of the websites that offer the electives. It's quite clearly stated, is this an observership or will you get a bit of hands-on experience? And if you're not too sure, I think I'd recommend reaching out and just asking what the day-to-day would be like for you. Because if you're looking for something a bit more hands-on and you rock up and you end up standing in the corner and not being able to use your hands, it can kind of defeat the purpose of going somewhere. I think also consider, do you want to experience a different country's system or stay local as well? I really enjoyed going to Nepal because it kind of opened my eyes to a complete different healthcare system, which is something that I wouldn't really get as a junior doctor or a doctor in my career unless I, one day was a specialist and decided to move overseas. So I think it's great to have that perspective as someone quite junior. And I think also just logistically thinking about the travel associated with it, the accommodation and all the other expenses, I think which we'll touch on in a second as well.
Yeah, okay. It's interesting because my instinct is that most hospitals in Australia, surely, like if it's a university to university kind of sponsorship, then you're then going to be somewhat, I think what they mostly worry about in general is your insurance. As long as you're covered by some kind of organization, and the universities are all very well linked, it means that you can be in there speaking to patients, hands-on patients examining, putting drips in, and doing airway management. I feel like that's probably the standard. And correct me if I'm wrong. The only way you can really do as a medical student, an elective in another hospital is to reach out to their medical school. Is that right?
Yeah. There's kind of two avenues to go about it. I guess we can just touch on it now. So I feel like it's kind of split between you either go through the hospital system, as you said, or a clinical school system. I believe in Melbourne, it works through like the Melbourne Clinical School, through Uni Melbourne, and that's one stream. The other stream is you contact the hospital, I guess, head of unit of that specialty and see if there are opportunities available. I do know of some people who knew a direct contact as well, and that can also help just securing that elective. I believe that when you do know a direct contact, it's more so that you are under that person's wing for the whole time. So yeah.
And I'd almost say, sounds like there's some websites, and we'll put some information in a blog just so that people can kind of do a how-to guide. So we'll put that in the show notes. But it sounds like I'd imagine the best way of doing this is actually, for more of a guaranteed experience, find out who's done what where, and then reach out to them and go, hey, what was your experience? And was it good? Can we do the same?
Yeah, 100%. I think I talked to a few people in the year above me and worked out where they went and how they found it. And I think that's an important thing to do because you don't want to go in blind. I guess you want to know what to expect and see if it aligns with what you want as well. So yeah, I think it's important to chat to people in the years above you.
Sounds good. So how far in advance did you start planning this elective or the electives, and what would you recommend to others?
Yeah, I believe for local electives, the ones around Australia, I would recommend at least 6 or 12 months before, just in terms of just early planning, in terms of reaching out, so just flicking over an email and seeing what the process is like, just because spots do fill up very, very quickly. I have heard of people, trying to reach out to, trying to do an elective in Melbourne or Sydney, and they've already filled up, very like many months in advance. So I would recommend 6 to 12 months for local electives. I think at least 12 months for international electives in terms of just working out where you want to go, potential options. And then I think a good way to go about it is to keep a spreadsheet of all like the deadlines, the requirements, and the responses you've received, just because it can be quite confusing to track everything just on an email chain.
So I've recently found out, probably in the last few years, I found out that my hospital and university clinical school only have an elective in a short period of time, which means that you have to apply, quite a lot before that very specific period. So I'd almost say to anyone, maybe reach out even before 18 months to 2 years to find out what that period is.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably just my hospital. I feel like other hospitals wouldn't care too much about the period, but yeah, it's interesting. So, the earlier you know the information, the better it is, because 12 months may be too close for my hospital.
Yeah, that's a good point, because for my uni at least, how it works is that we get to kind of preference where we want our electives to be in the year. So if you know that, for example, your hospital only has it in July to August, then you can ask for your elective to be in that time to your uni itself, so that you at least have that option available. So yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, which is kind of unfair, because if your elective is in July, then you probably miss out on my hospital. If you
right,
they probably won't action it, which is frustrating. But yeah, so plan early in advance. If you really want something, just make sure it's early. How did you approach finding electives, and what's like the best way to approach consultants or hospitals when trying to secure that elective?
Yeah, I guess in terms of approaching finding electives, we are a bit lucky in Adelaide in terms that some of the older years have formed a bit of a database of like where they've gone. I do know there are some public databases as well. I think the University of Western Australia has a public database, and it's got pages and pages of places a lot of students have been, and you can organize it through specialty, location, country, etc. So it's a really good database to use. And then I think, broadly speaking, as I said before, direct emails help a lot. So reaching out to hospital coordinators or consultants with a it's just short. It doesn't have to be a long email, just short email in terms of what you're expecting and what you can provide as well. And seeing what they say in terms of, yeah, sure, go about, we can maybe organize something for you. Also reaching out to clinical schools, as you said earlier. Some universities are quite linked in with their hospitals, with their surrounding hospitals. I think Melbourne and Sydney are. Adelaide works a bit different, where it's a bit separate. So you kind of want to reach out to the hospital itself, and the uni kind of does a separate thing to that. But yeah, I think doing your research can help. It's quite clear on a lot of the websites whether you should reach out to the hospital, reach out to the uni, and if you know someone, that also helps a lot as well.
Is it already like a website for medical student electives? Surely there's some kind of.
In Australia, there actually isn't. So yeah, in the UK, I believe they've actually formed like a massive like database of like a how to, and it provides them with like pretty much just a streamlined process of how to go about it. But no, in Australia, I don't think there is. So kind of it's up to you to work everything out. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Hey, what advice would you give to students who are unsure about which specialty to focus on? Obviously, anesthetics is the only one, but
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think if you're undecided, maybe think about something that maybe you can go about it by thinking broad. So something that is generally seen as something that could be helpful, like gen med or an emergency, or just a general surgery. But I also would look at it as an opportunity to get into something that you wouldn't get that much exposure to. I know a few friends who did an elective in radiation oncology, which is something that we don't get any exposure to in med school. And they really enjoyed it. It's 3 weeks where they were able to see into a specialty, which I don't think lots of people know about. So, yeah.
I'd always think, yeah, it feels like, maybe this is just my bias. I wanted to do stuff, but if I wasn't sure, just doing something like emergency would be very useful. It would be, I think it'd be reasonably easy to get in there, and as long as there's a place that was small enough that you knew the consultants, you'd get familiar with them, they'll allow you to see patients. There'll be such a, like, the worst thing is you go to summer rotation and there's no patients, or there's very few new patients. Like, that's not what you want to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think emergency is a great one. I know a couple of friends who did it in their 4th year, which is our first clinical year, and they got lots of hands-on experience from a very junior level, which is great. And they still say that it was one of the most enjoyable placements they've had in all of med school. So yeah.
What we say about emergency, it's a great thing to be as a medical student or a junior doctor, but if you're not into that kind of lifestyle of evening shift, it's definitely consultant life. What are the biggest challenges students face when applying for electives, and how do you navigate them?
Yeah, I would say number one is limited availability. I didn't realize but spots actually fill up very, very, very quickly. I think a lot of students are really on the ball very early. So if you are keen on going somewhere, then I would, as you said before, just ask early in terms of, just work out how does it work, what information do I need to know, what information do I need to have ready, and by what dates. Ideally, if you are able to be a bit more flexible with your dates of the elective, that does help as well. But just keep in mind that there is very limited availability at some hospitals. I think getting some of the paperwork can be a bit difficult as well. You have to factor in that it takes a bit of time to get some letters from your uni. I think we needed a good standing letter from our uni, and that took a couple of weeks to process. So keeping that in mind is important as well. Sometimes you need to show your vaccination status too, police check, working with children check, etc. So having all those things ready is important, just so your application can be processed as quickly as possible. Yeah.
Like a lot of things, just being really organized, and
exactly.
Once you start doing these things, like especially getting your medical record history, of vaccination history, certificates order, it's so good now. Like I've just got folders with all of this stuff, and the next hospital I need accreditation at or whatever, just here it is, attach, send. But you might as well start now.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think that's a good idea. I kept everything in one folder just so it was just quick and easy just to send everything off. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for securing a placement, especially if there's like competitive locations?
I think Um, be persistent. Follow up if you don't hear back. I think people get very busy in their own lives, and I think if you haven't heard back in a couple of weeks, just send them another email. Just see, just ask again because there's no harm. I think the worst thing you can get is sorry, no, we can't take you, and that's okay. So yeah, be persistent.
That's a really,
If you,
I just want to reiterate that point. I know for me, if I don't reply an email, it's not no. Like if it's no, the reply is easy. If
yeah,
I don't reply an email, it's just I can't. It's not happening yet. I don't have the bandwidth, or I've got other stuff on. So I would
mhm,
absolutely appreciate an email in a month's time, in 2 months'
mhm,
time, because that's totally fine. I think people, like you said, they're just busy. It's definitely not, and it's not annoying to get a gentle reminder like, "Hey, just reaching out again. I know you're busy. Have you thought about this?" And
mhm,
I think most of us are totally happy with that kind of approach.
mhm. Yeah, and I would also say apply broadly. Don't just rely on one or two places to um, just don't just think that it'll work out just for uh, a hospital in Melbourne or Sydney. Just apply broadly because um, you might get declined from both, and then you're kind of left stranded. So just have backup options available just in case things fall through.
Yeah. If you say no to an elective, but you've been offered because you got another place offered, trust me, we don't care.
Yeah,
You're not burning any
exactly,
bridges.
exactly. Yeah.
Um, you mentioned some paperwork. That's good. Yeah, how about the financial considerations? Obviously, travel and accommodation, and yeah.
Yeah. So I guess locally it varies from med school to med school. Some med schools do charge a fee, some don't. But I think it's more so you just gotta ask, just reach out and ask what their weekly fee is for an elective. But you're looking at maximum of a few $100 a week if they do charge. But I do know I think in Adelaide they don't charge anything. But yeah, it does vary. Going internationally, there are some fees to definitely consider, as you said. So flights, accommodation, just general living costs, and internationally, the electives often do cost a lot more. So some can cost a few $1,000s. So I think it's important to look for some grants. I think in Adelaide we get offered a grant in our final year to go overseas and to enjoy our electives, which is great. And I'm sure lots of other med schools across Australia are supporting their students in that way as well. But yeah, definitely look into the costs and definitely consider it because you don't want to plan everything and then realize I need to fork out, $5,000 to $10,000, or even a couple $1,000 because it's a lot to cover. Yeah.
I guess my advice is, hopefully you've got a part-time job or you're saving up. Just as a medical student, money is, obviously not working. Money is really tight. But if there's anything I would invest in, is this kind of experience. Like, when you become an intern, a lot of people buy a car that's on loan or can't afford. I reckon forget the car. Just take a loan from your parents, whatever it is. Get this as an experience. It will be something that it won't be a depreciating asset from your experience point of view. And when you become an intern, you'll be able to pay them back pretty soon.
Yeah.
You'll be, especially in your final year, you don't have too much of a lag time between, doing this, paying it off, and then, going about your way.
Mhm.
Hey, let's talk a bit about maximizing your experience. So how did you prepare for these anesthesia electives?
Yeah. Shameless plug, but I used your channel a lot. I think you had a playlist that was designated to medical students, and I just watched that a couple times just before my elective, just to have my basic principles just down pat. And it did help. I think you had a course as well associated with your website, which helped as well. Other things, I think a consultant at one of my locations told me to go through the Oxford Handbook because it split it between surgeries. So it gave quite a broad but general plan of most surgeries, which helped. I would say just reviewing key principles. So just the induction, maintenance, and recovery phase is important. Having practiced IV cannulation would be ideal as well. So prior, so if you've got an anesthetic elective coming up, taking more opportunities in the placements before to to practice your IV cannulation can help as well.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say don't stress too much about it. I think if you come in there with a good mind, a good mindset of wanting to learn, and you show that, then that's more important. Be proactive, ask questions. I think read up about the cases beforehand, and just formulate like a mini plan in your own head of what you think you would do, and feel free to offer that to the anaesthetist or the registrar there, because I think when you come in there with showing that you've done some thinking on your own, they do appreciate that, and they can see that you're there to learn, and then naturally they'll get you more involved in the day. Days can go by very slowly in an anesthetics theatre where you're just sitting there with not much knowledge, and there's not much talk between you and the consultant. So I think it's important to come in there pretty proactive, and that's where things can get flowing.
That's a really good suggestion of just having some kind of preparation. I think one of the things I get really upset or disappointed is when I say, "Hey, what do you want to learn today?" And someone just kind of shrugs their shoulders and say, I don't know. And I'm like, oh man, you could really make some use out of this. And it's almost like teaching is an effort, time is, kind of precious. Do I spend time teaching someone who I think will really use that knowledge and use it for really great things in the future? Or is this just going to be a waste of my time saying something that they'll never use again? So my impression of that is, if I haven't prepared, then I probably don't have much need to invest in this, because it's probably going to be not the best return on investment. Or time. And so what you said, it's the Anesthesia Foundations course. So if you go to anesthesia.thinkific.com, that's ANAES, anesthesia spelled the British way. I've got a foundation course, and that's really, really useful for just all your basics of anesthesia. Like if you went through that, you'd held you in really good stead. And then, just in the playlist, like the medical student playlist, or even I think there's an ABC Anesthesia bootcamp playlist. It's got lots of really good introductory stuff. There's a book called The First Year by Lachlan Rathie. Really useful book. I'm actually not a big fan of the Oxford Handbook, but I'm a really big fan of The First Year, and also Anesthesiology, which is the Lang publication. Morgan McHale, Anesthesiology. It's the right amount of information. Miller's way too much, Oxford too little. But that book is really good. And so if I think about the bread and butter of anesthesia, it's like you see your patients, you make a plan, you put a drip in, airway management, then you pay attention. If you can get as much experience in those things, assessing a patient, just doing the very basics. In fact, we've got a assessment course coming up next Saturday. Hopefully I'll publish this before then. But that's really useful for leveling up your assessments. Make a plan, know how to put an IV cannulation, do IV cannulation. Obviously, we've got lots of videos out there on that. And then, airway management. But the biggest thing, when someone asks you, hey, what do you want to learn? Hopefully you've read up about the case. You know what the case is. It might be something like, pneumoperitoneum in a lap chole, or, a toe amputation could have an ankle block. Let's chat about that, because I've never seen a block before. So if you can do a little bit of Googling about something, high yield.
And I think even if you just be honest and say, sorry, I haven't read up about it, you would kind of just have 10 to 20 minutes to myself just to quickly read up about it, and then I'll have some questions for you. I think they'll appreciate that a lot more than you sitting there just shrugging your shoulders. And also I will say, I think anesthesia is very, very special in that you spend a lot of time with a specialist as a medical student, which you don't really get in any other specialty. And you should really appreciate that. These people have lots of knowledge to offer. And if that's something you're generally interested in pursuing as a career, then take that opportunity and definitely ask questions.
Absolutely. What are your top tips for making the most out of your anesthetic elective?
I think, as I said, as we touched on, be prepared. Don't go in there with a blank canvas. I think have goals in your own mind of what you want to do. So if you want to practice your cannulation, if you want to practice your airways, then make that clear. Voice that. Because I think a lot of times people get a bit scared being a med student and they don't want to voice what they want to do. But if you voice it, then the chances are they'll allow it to happen, and they're willing to teach you. And and if you go in there with a goal and you're able to walk out of that theatre having achieved that goal, I think that's a good feeling to have as a med student. So yeah.
Just having one thing you want to achieve that day, even if it's like, imagine the simplest thing. I want to know how to insert a Goodell. That's one thing you've learned that you didn't know before. Or I want to know how to draw up propofol. Easy, you've done
Exactly.
So you've done an elective in Nepal. What do you think of the kind of the cultural barrier and language differences, just a different environment like that?
Yeah, I think it was definitely eye-opening seeing how a different system worked. Pretty much, just for some context, it was in a large metropolitan hospital in Western Nepal, and they had 10 theaters running pretty much most days, and there were 2 anaesthetists on. So, as you'd imagine, an anaesthetist is just moving about all theaters throughout all cases. So that was a very, very big difference I noticed straight away, as opposed to how it works here, where you've got one patient in front of you. Sure, you tap out for a break, but you come back to that patient. Whereas here was, I didn't understand how they remember what was going on at each.
So they have nurse anesthetists, obviously. Is that what's happening? So
yeah, even then you would notice that sometimes, the surgeons would be operating and there would be no one on the anesthetic side in the room.
oh, what? Oh, that's different.
Yeah. So yeah, it was quite different in that sense. In terms of language barriers, I did find that a lot of the I can only speak to Nepal, but I found that a lot of the consultants spoke very good English, and that was helpful. It was difficult when they were conversing between each other, like colleagues between each other, because then they would speak in Nepali, and then it would be hard to kind of follow conversation and offer your thoughts. But I think a good way to go about it is just show some interest into that one person, or whether it's the one you need to just on. And I found that then they would take me under their wing and kind of show me the ropes of how it worked there. I did find the teaching styles a bit different. I think there's a bit of the hierarchy is a bit starkly different in Nepal between med students, juniors, and consultants. And I found that
What is it like? What is that?
I just like, because there were lots of other local medical students in the room, and you would see that they would kind of just not really talk. They would still sit in their own corner, and I guess you do see that that does happen in Australia as well, but it was very much like we shouldn't ask questions. It was a very different mindset that they had.
Okay, I think I get what you're saying. It was be seen and not heard type mentality, potentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
No one told you that that's the way it was, but that's just seemed how people were acting, that there was a real massive ladder that, you couldn't speak to the but it sounds like maybe they could speak to the intern or resident or junior doctor. Was that?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good avenue to take. So I think they would often talk to, the person just one step above them. But I did notice a big difference was medical students in Nepal were used a lot for very, very random little jobs here and there, just because they're so understaffed that they would definitely spread thin in terms of trying to work out who does what, whether it's go get your towel for this, mopping up this floor, mopping up that floor. It was very, very different in that sense. Yeah,
it's not the worst thing, like to be able to, do all the tasks of an operating theatre. Like there's plenty of times I've mopped the floor, I've got something for someone, I've played the role of the anaesthetic assistant or nurse. It's not a bad thing to just have that overall experience. So maybe, even in those kind of trickier settings where there's a hierarchy, you can still gain a lot out of it. Hey, I want to learn medicine, I want to learn healthcare, just give me whatever.
Now, weirdly enough, I did notice that it seemed like it was like a family in that operating theatre. Like everyone kind of knew their role, and there was a bit of talk here and there, but it was kind of like anyone can do anything here, so let's just make it work. And that was kind of a nice thing to see as well. Yeah.
I recently went to the Solomon Islands and saw them practicing anesthesia there, and it felt like there was very little hierarchy. like I saw the registrars and the consultants, conversing very, very well. A medical student who came in, he was just, oh, hey, do you mind if I scrub? And then the surgeon was like, yeah, no worries. It seemed like a very chilled atmosphere, but that's probably the islands, just a more relaxed anyway.
Relaxed, yeah.
Hey, did you find anything really challenging or anything dangerous about being in Nepal?
You mean from like outside of the
Safety
elective?
view, yeah.
I don't think so. I think if you have your wits about you, I think it's the same as it would be here if you're walking down the street at 3 a.m. You just got to be careful. But yeah, I found everyone there very, very welcoming of tourists. And yeah, I think as long as you have your wits about you, make sure you're in a safe place. People know where you are. Then I think that's fine. I would say don't let that hold you back. I think Nepal's a great country to. I really enjoyed being there. There's a lot to do, and yeah, I think it's great to push yourself out of your comfort zone, and yeah.
Absolutely, challenge yourself with a place you'd never heard of, or you never thought you'd go to before. And so, because I think we've pretty much covered everything. I think the real themes were prepare early, whatever it is, just get started. It's fun actually exploring this stuff, to plan something like this. I don't see it as a chore. Like, it just sounds quite exciting to imagine looking forward to this thing in a couple of years' time. So plan early, even preparing for your case, just, read up on stuff, make sure you've got a bit to give as well. It's very easy with the internet. You can literally just look up the day before, even the morning of, and go, oh shit, there's this kind of case. Let's just look up something about it. And hopefully some of the ABC's anesthesia videos will be useful as well. Is there anything else to add, Chanel, before we clog off?
Don't think so. I would say just, as you said, I think really, really take the opportunity and run with it if you do get offered an elective. As a med student, we don't really have any responsibility of the patient itself. We just fall onto the doctors. So you do get a lot of opportunity to just learn and grow your skill set, and these things that you wouldn't get as an intern or an RMO or a medical officer in the junior stages. And being able to go to a foreign country or a different healthcare system in Australia and see what it's like. So definitely take the opportunity if you get offered one, and get out there and learn, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good. Hey, so thanks so much for sharing your experience with us. Just lots of it's so exciting. I almost want to think of what it's like to be back as a medical student. You're experiencing everything for the first time, and doing an elective will be such a massive learning curve. So really exciting. I hope everyone got a lot out of this. Just a few things happening. There's obviously the courses on anesthesia.thinkific.com. Just check those out. They'll be really useful for different stages of your training. We've just started doing the boot camp series. So it used to be one really full day of lots of lectures, but it just became really quite onerous. So we just run various boot camp sessions. The next one that's coming up is advanced assessments and planning. There's also one where I take physiology and pharmacology, the really esoteric principles, and just translate them to practice, as well as crisis management and is your patient fit for surgery. So lots and lots of stuff happening. Best way to find out when those are happening is probably go on to, if you were to Google Humanistics and Anesthesia, that will have the portal for all the different things. But go on the website, anesthesiacollective.com, and you'll have lots of information there. And sign up to Instagram as well. And I'll just be posting whenever these sessions are happening. So lots going on. If you're interested in anesthesia, please have a look. And thanks so much, and I will see everyone again next time.
Thanks so much. Thank you.
Now, what's new with ABCs of Anesthesia is that we're forming a whole bunch of very comprehensive courses for every stage of your anesthetic journey, from medical student to procedural skills, from foundations in anesthesia, as well as really important exam lectures and clinical anesthesia courses as well.